Jokes. Mersey TV, regarded when I worked in London by everybody as an academy of excellence. People always said, oh, they've been through the Brookie School. A great legacy to have. In 2005, he packed that in to go in sailing. He still retains the name Mersey TV, and he still supports his beloved Liverpool FC. In 1989, he was proud that he became an honorary professor of media studies at JMU. Some quotes from the national newspapers, and Phil often loves talking to them and sort of battling with them. He said, this is in The Guardian, "We are who we are, and that's it." Oh, that's it. Cool. And The Guardian added, in his familiar, shaggy-haired, take-it-or-leave-it style. In The Independent, they said, the best-known producer on British TV who changed the nation's viewing habits. He's a bit like Tony Wilson and Manchester. Phil is Mr. Liverpool. Ali McRae, editor-in-chief of the Liverpool Daily Post and Echo, has become a good friend with Phil, and they've both worked on many projects together. And only last week he was talking about the things that inspired him when he came from Newcastle. And he came to Liverpool and he thought it was the magic of the people. And he said this last week, "I was hugely impressed by Phil's ability to galvanise and inspire the ordinary man and woman in the street, and how he helped pull everything together for capital culture. His drive and intellect captivated the movers and shakers, and the way he brought so many disparate, factors together was astonishing." But my favourite is in The Independent a bit later, and this sums him up before we bring in Mr. Redmond. This is a quote from The Independent. "With his mane of grey hair and non-matching bushy eyebrows, Phil Redmond resembles an ageing blues musician rather than a TV mogul and a cultural commissar. There is nothing grand about him." I dispute that, Phil. "His accent is unreconstructed. He can switch in short order from truculence to a slightly sinister friendliness that can beguile the unwary. He is unfailingly blunt in his views of the TV industry that alternately courts him and buggers him about. He was not put on this earth to be a diplomat or a pillar of the establishment, but to get things done, to dramatise, to stir things up. It's a career spanning more than 35 years, a career well spent." Mr. Phil Redmond. Can you believe that? No? Not really. A journalist wrote that. Mm-hmm. Phil, you once said that you don't have to be in London to be in the TV industry. You can do it from here. Mm-hmm. Can you just expand on that? 'Cause I always remember you saying that when I first met you.
Well, I think that's tied to a little bit of what we're here tonight, and that's about the use of new technology, because when I came into it, you could already see the beginnings of it, the beginnings of the way the world was going to change. And at the time, it was just about the weight and portability of the equipment. So we were moving from that age of having these massive, great sort of lumbering pieces of machinery that took 4 people to move, down to very lightweight equipment that, one person could carry, and do everything. So you could see that as soon as you get that kind of flexibility, things would change. Now, of course, it's about the ability to deliver and the closeness to market, because there's a new phrase now out, isn't there, which is like, go global, stay local, and that's really the way the entire world has changed with the advent of computers and the internet and the speed and knowledge transfer and technology. And we've gone through this one great wave, which is that you don't need to manufacture everything at home. You can get it done in cheap labour markets elsewhere. So we dream things up and we send them off to sweatshops and they make them. And this includes TV and film. But it's beginning to get to the next stage already, which is basically, well, if you're 6,000 miles away from your production base, or if you're having bits of movies made, some in Australia and some in Bosnia and some in Brazil and everything, because that's where the specialists are in CGI and things like this. what people begin to realise is that you start to lose control of the quality, or the complexity of controlling the quality is so difficult. It's gradually all starting to come back home again because the technology's gone to its next stage, which is now it's so cheap. And I find it really interesting now that, you know, when I've just bought myself yet again another MacBook Pro, and the software that comes preloaded with that, with things, when you can get like Final Cut and stuff like that in it now for 1,500 quid, has probably got more computing power and more capability than I spent building Brookie in 1982 of 1.5 million, you know, so. And it's that kind of scale of change that we really need to think about, really.
Back in 1983, Phil gave out awards to the National Union of Journalists, and he gave a speech. I was there. We booked him. I didn't win anything, so I'm still forgiving him for that. But it was all.
I gave him out. I didn't.
He
pay
gave them. It was called. He called it the Information Highway, and we were all hacks in there. We'd been in the bar and all the rest of it. And he thought, he comes up and, you know, he's standing there, Phil Redmond, and he said, in years to come, you know, it's all going to be cool. And he said that it's all going to change, and that, you know, you're going to become multimedia journalists. And a lot of people were quite, I'm not saying scared, they're a bit wary of this prophecy, if you like. And he said to me that, yeah, one day you'll be able to watch telly at your own, you know, your own speed, your own time. And I thought, how can you do that on a telly? Well, you know, only yesterday I was watching Deal or No Deal from Thursday on a Sunday, and I thought, Phil's right there. But the thing that really worried a lot of the journalists was he was talking about how it's going to be trimmed and slimmed and all the rest of it. And he called it the Information Highway. So even back then, you know, you got it right. I mean, do you see bigger changes?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, this is partly being trained as a quantity surveyor, you see.
All right.
Because
what does that mean, by the way? Do you survey quantities?
Yeah, and basically the job was always about looking at the most efficient way to build. So you're always looking at sort of new ways, new techniques, you know, new technology, new people, new thinking, always looking to shave that extra bit off the cost, you know, of the actual sort of construction cost. So when I came to television, it was completely the other way around, you know, it was like money, no object and all that kind of stuff. So like, I don't know, it's partly that training, but partly my head is always interested in pulling things, you know, looking right across the whole spectrum and start to pull things together. And I think it was someone like Thomas Edison who said that you have to look at every little bit of a machine and how it fits in to the rest of the other bits within the machine, because all the bits only make one machine. You know?
Right.
And I think that's the same with technology. You've got to really try and keep a pace of what's going on across the technological spectrum to realise what the consumer will be doing. It's got nothing to do with like what you want to do as a journalist, or what I want to do as a TV producer, or what anybody wants to do as a filmmaker. It's what do the consumers want to do. And like, what the consumers want to do is that they want to do stuff in their own time, at their own time, and at a reasonable cost. Right? And so, I mean, we're sitting now in a legacy of a really old 1900s technology, you know, which is like a room that somebody drags in a magic lantern and starts showing pictures, you know. But actual fact, you know, you look at it, talk to anybody under, I don't know, under the age of about 24, 25, and their world is 13 inches, you know. It's like it's a laptop, and anything they can see or do on a laptop, that's cool, you know. And now the iPhone is taking people down to that kind of 3 or 4 inches, you know. And that's what consumers really want, and then just they want to consume things when they want to. And that doesn't mean that they won't go out to a cinema, and they won't go out to a theatre, or they won't go out to a live music concert, but they're all different choices. Yeah. But, you know, like last night, I sat and watched 2 episodes of The Survivors, which I still bill as the greatest disappointment in 30 years, but still, I'm quite interested to see how it develops. I watched it playing through wirelessly through my MacBook Pro, wirelessly onto my high-definition projector onto my cinema screen as big as that. You know, and at the time that I wanted to watch it, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's really what people want to do. So this whole idea of, you know, making things and then saying to people, you have to see them at this stage or this, or whatever, is